Hello students, I welcome you all to this session. I am Vaishali Kikan and today in this session we are going to talk about the vapor phase epitaxy. We have already seen what is epitaxy, its definition, its types and the basic reactions associated with the epitaxy in the previous video. If you want to know in detail what is epitaxy, you can refer the previous video. Also we have talked about the liquid phase epitaxy in the previous video. Now in this video we will be focusing upon the vapor phase epitaxy. In the next video we will be talking about the molecular beam epitaxy. So I hope you will be getting a lot of information about the epitaxy after all of these videos. So first of all, what is epitaxy and what is the vapor phase epitaxy? Epitaxy, we know we have to grow a layer on the substrate. So a high purity layer of same material or different material can be grown on the substrate. This is the epitaxy process. Now vapor phase epitaxy is also known as the chemical vapor deposition. It is a special type of chemical vapor deposition. All chemical vapor deposition are not vapor phase epitaxy, but all vapor phase epitaxy are essentially the chemical vapor deposition. So now here, as the name suggests, all of the reactants are introduced as the gases, and the material to be deposited, it should be bound to the ligands. Okay, so ligands dissociate and then we will be allowing the desired chemistry to reach to the surface. I will be telling you all of these things with the help of the figures. So in the next slides I will be showing you how all of these things are happening. So some desorption, but some adsorbed atoms find the proper crystallographic position on the substrate, and this is how we will be forming a proper layer on the substrate itself. Okay, so this layer is formed with the help of vapors of reactants, and this is called the chemical vapor deposition or the vapor phase epitaxy. So you can see the example. I told you we are using SiCl4, so it will be reacting with the hydrogen, so it will be forming silicon plus HCl. It is in the gaseous form, so it should be properly vented out. So SiCl4 is introduced with the hydrogen. You can see the reaction. It will be forming silicon and HCl gas, and if I talk about SiH4, it will be breaking via the normal thermal decomposition only. And you can see, if I talk about SiCl4, I have already talked about actually all of these things in the previous video itself. SiCl4 is the reversible reaction. This reaction, you can see here, I have made arrows on both of the sides. This is the reversible reaction, but if I start with SiH4, it is not a reversible reaction. Okay, so we can have the negative etching as well. So if I have more of this SiCl4, we can have the etching process also. So we have to have a controlled environment in the controlled SiCl4 also. Okay, so this is essentially what is the vapor phase epitaxy. Now if I have the SiCl4 in the vapor form, so if this SiCl4 is flowing in the vapor form, so we can have the vapor gases. So these gases are denoted by the parameter which is flow, and flow is denoted by the Reynolds number, where Reynolds number is dV rho upon mu. D is the diameter of tube through which the gas flow is taking place, V is the velocity of the gas flow, rho is the density of the gas, and mu is the viscosity of this gas. So now we are finding out the Reynolds number so that we can find out what kind of gas flow is there over the substrate. So if my reactants are flowing over the surface, they should have the proper type of flow. So there are two types of flow depending upon the Reynolds number. If it is greater than 2000, Reynolds number is greater than 2000, we can term it as the turbulent flow. If the Reynolds number is lesser than 2000, then this is the laminar flow. Mostly we will be having the laminar flow in the vapor deposition process. We will be having Nr lesser than only 500 only. So this is how we will be having the vapor phase epitaxy. Reynolds number is up to 500. We can have 100, 200 values of Reynolds number also. So that will also be forming the proper epitaxial layer. So you know now Nr is dV rho upon mu, we know it. Now the width of the stagnant layer. Why we were finding out the Reynolds number? The width of the stagnant layer. Stagnant layer is the first layer which is going upward on the substrate. So I will be giving you the example with the help of this reactor. So you can see here. So this is my reactor. Here you can see if my gases are coming as the reactant. So what can happen? My gases will be flowing like this. Okay, so gases will be flowing like this. So here we will be having one more layer. So it will be flowing like this. Okay, so this layer which is just upon the substrate, this is the place where my wafers are present. This is the substrate. Okay, so just above this we have the stagnant layer or the boundary layer. I hope now you understood this. So now the flow of gas will be found out with the help of the stagnant layer. Okay, so if I have the width of the stagnant layer, that I have to find out so that I can properly place my substrate. So width of the stagnant layer is related to the Reynolds number. The width is represented by Y and it is equal to dx upon nr. nr is Reynolds number, d we all know, it's the diameter of the tube. Okay, so now here if I put the Reynolds number is dv rho upon mu, so here y will be equal to mu x upon d rho raised to power 1 by 2. So now here you can see we have derived a conclusion that the width of the stagnant layer will be increasing as we are moving along the pipe. Okay, if I am increasing x, the width will be increasing. So you can see we have this kind of layer. Okay, the layer will be increasing in height if I am moving along the x. So this is my tube. My tube will be looking like this, and this is how the width of the layer is increasing in the height. So I hope now this is understood how we will be having the flow of the gas. We are finding out the Reynolds number so that I can find out how much my width is changing with the height. Okay, so this is how we can have the relation between the two. So now we can have the cold wall reactors and the hot wall reactors. Mostly we require the cold wall reactors. So if the reactor wall is cold, then the contamination deposition will be tending to be on the reactor wall. We don't want contamination on our surface. Okay, if there will be contamination on the epitaxial layer, its purpose is breached. Okay, it is required so that it will be there in the highly pure form. If I have the hot reactors walls, so the contamination particle will not be adhering to it. Okay, it will be going on the substrate. So if I want my contamination deposition on the reactor wall, then it should be a cold wall reactor. If the reactor wall is hot, then the contamination deposition tend to be on the sample itself. Okay, so this is the reason we are using the cold wall reactor. So now the precursors for the vapor phase epitaxy. So my reactors should be sufficiently volatile to allow the acceptable growth rates. This is the first precursor. We should be heating it to the desired temperature, and this must be resulting in the pyrolysis process. Okay, it is a less hazardous chemicals which are preferable, like we have arsine, which is highly toxic gas. We don't use it because we are taking the reactors in the vapor form. These vapors can easily escape the reactors and they can produce the damage in the surroundings. Okay, they can leak through the reactors and they can reach to the humans. This is how they can be highly dangerous. So we avoid using the hazardous chemicals. So we will be using the tributyl arsine instead of arsine. This is how we can replace our reactors. Vapor phase epitaxy techniques distinguished by the precursors that we are using. Okay, we will be having different types of precursors. Mostly we are using the barrel type of reactor. So you can see here we have this barrel type of reactor. So this is my barrel type of reactor. So you can see we have the heating coils here, and this is the place where my wafers are placed. So barrel is actually the drum type of reactor. Okay, so here on this place we have various substrates which are present. Now we will be having the reactants which is coming into the gaseous forms in the upward direction. So now this is my barrel reactor. Here this is the platform over which my substrates are present. Here we have placed various, so you can see here we have placed various wafers, and now if I am putting the vapor through it, so here you can see we will be having horizontal type of layering. Okay, so if you have seen it, so here you can see if I am putting the vapors, there will be having the horizontal type of layer coming on this surface. So you can have the vertical reactors as well. Here the vapors or the reactants vapors are coming in the vertical form. So there is a downgrade of this vertical reactor is that we can not use the multiple substrates here. You can see in the barrel reactors we can have many wafers which are combined and which can be used as in the same reactor, and we can have the batch process with the barrel reactor. But here we cannot have the batch process, and we can have the single wafers only, and with the help of single wafers we will be making our reactor. So this is the horizontal reactor, and here we have the tilted the substrates. So we have tilted the platform over which the substrates are present. We know now that the boundary layer will be increasing with the height, so that we will be having the uniform distance from the boundary layer, and all of the substrate will be having the same epitaxial layer deposition. So this is how we will be having the tilted platform over which my substrates are present. Okay, I hope now you understood this. So these are the references. I hope you will be going through them. If you still have any kind of doubt, you can reach out to me, or you can put the doubt in the comment. I hope you like this video. If you like it, you can share it with your friends. You can subscribe the channel, and you can push the like button. Thank you so much.